Aloha, this is Soul, the founder of Soul University. Welcome to our 8-part series on embracing change. Over the next few minutes, you'll hear a snippet of a conversation that I've had with someone I know to be a powerful change agent. Enjoy.
I'm honored and blessed to have with me Madeline Blanchard. Madeline has been part of the change agent world. Oh, Madeline, how long have you been what I would consider a change agent? How many decades?
21 years I've been a coach.
You've been in and out of boardrooms. You have been in and out of homes. You've been on the front lines. You've been behind the lines. What have you seen in 21 years? What do you think is the number one reason people resist change?
I think every single person you're interviewing about this would say it's fear. And it is fear, but it's an irrational fear. It's the fear that comes from the reptilian brain, essentially. Because everything that you've been doing up until now, even if it's not perfect, it's worked. And if you change anything, you might die. And that's how the reptilian brain responds. And in organizations, when people are being asked to change processes or strategic direction, usually it's processes, the way they do things. Mm-hmm. They literally feel in their bodies as if they could die if they change the way they do things. Mm-hmm. Because especially in organizations, making a mistake or not being successful, after you've created the habit of being successful and therefore staying alive, it feels like you could die. And it's so funny. Yesterday, someone put a link on Facebook with my Facebook friends, a link to an Onion article, and the headline was, it's hilarious. The headline was, research shows that over 10 million people last year were killed from going outside their comfort zone. I know, right? And I didn't realize it was The Onion. I didn't realize it was satire, and I opened the link. I'm like, what? That can't possibly be true. What makes that so funny is that it's true, is that literally people feel that if they change the way they eat, if they try a different kind of exercise. I know I literally feel a physical resistance when I have to upgrade my computer software. I get hostile and cranky with our IT people, and if I can't get it right really quickly, I get really ornery. It's because I can get so much done so fast with the processes that I know, and when someone asks me to change it, it just really makes me crazy. It makes me not myself. So I think that's the short answer. There's a guy in the coaching profession, a guy named David Rock, who has gotten into the neuroscience of leadership and therefore the neuroscience of change, because half of what leaders need to get people to do is change. There's all kinds of research that shows, especially the older you get, the neural pathways that get formed when you learn something new get deeper and deeper, and you use the same neural pathways day in, day out, forcing yourself to create new neural pathways, literally new synapses. That's what people are being asked to do when they're being asked to change. It's really hard. And when people say, it's just fear, it's not just fear with a little f. It's fear with a capital F, like people feel like they could die.
Yeah, it's work. It is a turn that people generally do not want to take, but then 9 out of 10, if you're supposed to take that turn, you'll have to take it. It's interesting, and this will lead into my next question. The next question is going to be, how have you helped organizations, because you have such great experience in working with organizations, how have you helped organizations make that turn? And I'm going to preface that with, have you found that it's an exponential thing? The more a person resists, the more difficult it will be to change, the more difficult it gets the more dramatic the change is going to be, versus if they were to just, like a large ocean liner making a turn, they make turns ever so slightly. You can't just turn a big ship like you turn a car. You've got to chart your course and slowly steer that ship to make that turn.
Right.
So it's a gradual one. And most people, unfortunately, they don't adopt to change that way. It's, oh my God, they hit a brick wall and now they've got to change.
Great thing about that metaphor that you just used, the ship, is if you just make a 2-degree change in the direction, you end up with a completely different destination. And that's what is so hard for people to get.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that metaphor.
How do you introduce that 2-degree change in organizations?
Most organizations don't actually do 2-degree changes. I think that metaphor actually really works better for personal change. Organizational change, that is there's so many books written about that. In fact, we have someone in our organization, a woman named Pat Zagarmi. No Ken Blanchard book can have anything under 4 authors, but she has pioneered a change program that really covers the bases. She wrote a book called Who Killed Change. They go through all the different aspects of the different ways in which different aspects of organizations resist change, the culture, the systems. Those are the 2 biggies. But so there's all kinds of different ways to help organizations institute a change well. I've seen it done really well, step by step, and helping every individual manage their concerns, their information concerns, their personal concerns, etc. That's how the concerns are broken down. Those are the 2 biggies. It's, do I have the information I need to be successful, and how is this going to affect me personally? What am I going to lose? What do I have to gain? What do I have to learn? How am I going to be challenged? How could I possibly fail? So those are all the big questions you have to help people get around. But ultimately, what I've seen work best is quick, big, loud change. Do it fast, do it hard, help people manage it, give them 6 months to either catch up or get out. And the other thing I've seen is that you have to keep people used to change. Now, I'm not a fan, obviously, of change for the sake of keeping people nimble, but I do see what really happens in organizations that don't do enough change is that people lose the habit, and as you said, they become even more resistant. And I think that's true in our personal lives too. The more change averse you are, the more you have to force yourself to make a few changes every year just to stay in the habit. It's almost like a brain gym. You have to keep your brain used to change. And that's why so many coaches and so many gurus talk about challenging yourself on a regular basis, forcing yourself to go outside of your comfort zone, changing it up, doing something you're not used to. I remember in one wonderful class I took a long time ago when I was still an actor. The class was called Risk. 1 week, our homework was to go out and make a big mistake. And there was all kinds of back talk about it. People were like, what are you talking about? I still think about that because the way we grow up, our mother doesn't stand at the back door as we're getting on the school bus saying, take risks.
Yeah, you never say drive poorly. You drive safely.
Stay safe. And it all goes back to the reptilian brain. If you make a mistake, you could be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
So what I'm hearing you say, and what's trickling out of this, is we have to be really good listeners. We have to learn how to communicate clearly, hear clearly, speak clearly, so that we have the information needed to adopt the change. Do I have that correct?
Oh, yeah, you have to have your information. You have to have the details. And what a lot of organizations do is they'll say, oh, there's going to be this big change, but we don't have any information for you. Don't do that. That's just, I remember when my first marriage ended, my ex-husband and I decided that we were going to separate and divorce. And it was the hardest thing in the world because we wanted to figure out all the answers to all the questions. Where are you going to live? Where am I going to live? How are we going to manage with the kids? All of that. We wanted to have all those questions answered before we told our kids. So we had to keep it from our children. We worked with a therapist to try to figure out how to answer all those questions so that when we did tell them, we'd be able to answer all those questions. I knew because of my background that just saying, oh, we're getting divorced, more information coming for a 13 and a 10-year-old, that's just mean. It's just mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They need to know who's going to drive me to school. Who's going to be making my dinner?
And without that information, the reptilian brain takes over and creates all these illusions that feed the fear.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to die.
Yep.
Yeah. So it all seems to be common sense.
If we really pay attention to that concept of common sense, sometimes we pay a dear price to remember what we know we already know. Oh, we could go on for at least another couple of days on this topic. So
it's a huge topic.
Huge topic. And I think for those listening, please know we're going to continue on this conversation in this panel format because as you're hearing this show, you're finding out that there are themes, even though the theme may be similar. What Madeline brought up is absolutely critical to understand, and that is make sure you have that information that you need to make the change. If you're missing that information, ask for it. If people don't have it, do not make up stories until you get the information. Madeline, in my corporate work that I did as a corporate shaman, it was absolutely almost the best play on the planet that when people were told that there was not more information coming, how the creative mind starts manufacturing information that all of a sudden, this is what I heard. It was a story somebody made up 2 months ago, and now it becomes fact, and you have to dissolve that first. Yeah. Crazy. Madeline, if this were a video, you'd see me once again bowing before you with a big crinkled up face, smiling for all of your wisdom that you've shared with us today.
Thank you so much.
And as you've noticed, we're coming up to the halfway mark of our series. I would love to know, how is this series helping you befriend change? At the beginning of this series, where were you? What was your relationship like with change? How has it changed as you've listened to this show series? Next, we dive into Herndon Davis. I encourage you to look at his book, Wish You Were Repackaged Common Sense, before you listen to his show to get a little more background on him. Thanks again for listening. This is Soul, the founder of Soul University. If you need assistance with embracing change, we'll see you in class. Aloha!